knowledge of God is in His hands. That means when I am telling in His hands, that means I am separate, He is separate. It's true. As long as I have not realized Paramatman, that individuality remains there. As long as ego is there, as long as I is there, I am there. As long I am associated with my mind, I am always there. So when I am always there, there is another who is behind me. He is Paramatma. So this little I has to get merged into the Paramatma. Then you will get the supreme bliss. So, the key to knowledge of God is in the hands of God. So what's to be done? Pray, pray, pray. Pray for what? Pray for grace. That's all. Just pray for grace. Just pray for grace. It is when His grace descends that infinite knowledge unfolds. Direct knowledge is one thing, and book knowledge is another. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the knowledge of the books. That means the knowledge of the scriptures. It has its own value. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, so wonderfully Sri Ramakrishna has explained this phenomenon. He said, the fan is needed until the spring breeze blows. The fan is needed until the spring breeze blows. That's all the purpose of the scriptures. The scripture, reading of scriptures itself will not give you the realization of the truth, but it leads you towards that way. Now, what are the common features of both man and animal? Common features. Eating is common to both of them. Sleeping, fear, and most important, sexual activity. All these are common features of both animal and man. Then what is the speciality of man? It is that he has knowledge and can distinguish right from wrong. If you don't exercise that power of knowledge, you are just like an animal. The lower a person is, the greater is his joy in sense objects. See? The more you show the tendency to enjoy the world, that means to that extent you have lowered yourself. To that extent you have burdened yourself. The higher he is, the greater is his pleasure in knowledge. It's a very important point which we should all remember. So, how supreme importance is given for the knowledge. Now, to develop that special power of knowledge, which we call the knowledge of the spirit, spiritual knowledge, knowledge of the self, you require some power. Without that power, you will not be able to have that spiritual knowledge. What is that special power? It has been discovered by the holy people. That special power is in every one. And that is called the power of Ojas. Ojas. It's a Sanskrit name. It is remarkably special. Through that power of Ojas, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of truth, knowledge of your true self unfolds itself. It opens up itself. For opening that, this Ojas is required. The knowledge already exists. We have only to unfold it. So how to do it? To have the power of Ojas. How to do it? Then comes the discipline. Do you want to have the special power of Ojas? Are you contemplating on realizing God? Then maintain your chastity. Maintaining chastity for sufficiently long time. Some people prescribe 12 years, some people say 25 years. The mind gets steady. Mind becomes really strong, with the result that the knowledge unfolds itself. So, Sri Ramakrishna has very clearly explained about knowledge and special knowledge, jnana and vijnana. That concludes my comments. Not to get diverted to worldly things anymore. Prayer has got tremendous effect. When you do prayer sincerely, it becomes fruitful. If you want God really from the heart, you will certainly see Him. Sri Ramakrishna has said it is possible to see God. That means to realize the truth in this human body. So, he has shown through his life how that could be done. Not only he practiced that life, he gave us most fantastic teachings to follow the spiritual path. Everything is kept open, like an open book, open to everybody. But everybody doesn't see the book. What can be done? Even if those who see, they may not see properly. What can be done? So every stage is important. There is no use simply talking in a loose way about spirituality and God. Never talk that way anymore. Because everything is possible by your own self. Sri Ramakrishna said to Ramakrishna, one of the devotees, I'm taking only one or two points from the Gospels so that I can give my comments. Sri Ramakrishna has said many things. Just I am taking a bit here, a bit there. And when you advance spiritually, you yourself make wonderful comments on the sublime teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. He said to Ramakrishna, well, one must have the spiritual eye. Then you will get God, you will see God. Not with this ordinary eyes through which you see. What does it mean by that? Ordinarily the eyes see only gross things. Is not able to comprehend the subtle things. Gross manifestation is visible to this gross eye. So Sri Ramakrishna is pointing out to develop that eye, spiritual eye. It's called Divya Chakshus. Lord Krishna gave Divya Chakshus to Arjuna to have the Vishwarupa Darshan. How Arjuna could see past, present and future. How the creations being created and destroyed like a play. So everything is going on, whether you like it or not, whether you praise God or you don't praise Him. It goes on. Whether you realize God, whether you don't realize God, whether you want God or whether you want the world goes on. So, Sri Ramakrishna is pointing out to him that he should develop that eye. How to develop that spiritual eye? Everybody wants to have it. Who doesn't want gold? Tell me. But how to get it? That's the point. So again Sri Ramakrishna gives the hint. Do you know how to get the divine chakshus? By making the mind pure, which is very difficult. It is difficult because mind is trained in a different fashion. The problem is there. Without knowing the problem, what is the use? Simply crying. Oh, I am like this, I am like this. What is the use? Until and unless you give training to the mind, you cannot expect any spiritual unfoldment in your life. So, we have to concentrate upon what's to be done. Just as you concentrate upon how to earn money, how your whole being is sitting on it. So, Jnana Chakshus, Prema Chakshus. These are all very significant. These are all special, most sophisticated instruments. On one side is the wife. On the other, the son. Love is bestowed on both. But in different ways. The man's love towards his wife is different than his love towards his son. Therefore, it comes to this. that everything depends upon the mind. The mind. If you are able to somehow cultivate and establish purity in your mind, then that acquires a new attitude. Through that mind, one sees God in this world. So, it has been focused now. It is pinpointed what's to be done. All these things come only if your goal is to realize God, not otherwise. If you want to have God, if you want to have freedom, liberation, bliss, samadhi, and so on and so forth in this very life, you have to understand this point. Purity of mind must be done. How? Sri Ramakrishna takes you to next point, through spiritual discipline, which is also very difficult for us. The more you are in the world, the more it is difficult for you to practice. It's very simple. Only through the discipline you can make the mind steady. Only through discipline you can purify it. What's the meaning of purity? Why should we talk about purity? You may ask that question. Because mind is impure. How do you know mind is impure? Because mind is not going towards God. It wants to spend its time in the world, with the things of the world. It wants to engage itself busily in this most attracting world. So as long as the mind wants to stay in the world itself, that means as long as you want to carry on your never-ending activities in the life of the world, mind is said to be impure. So again, if in order to acquire purity of the mind, it means you will have to go a faraway place from your busy area of worldly activities. You should not feel the scent of the place where you have been working all the time. You should go far away. So that all those impressions regarding the activities which you have been doing so long are kept at safe distance for the time being. So, go to a place, select a place and go to control all the cravings. To control all the cravings. The next point comes now. Controlling of cravings cannot be done by just thinking on that. You will have to practice regularly contemplation and deep meditation. You must seriously, sincerely think of the divine. So, prayers and contemplation, they will purify the mind. And then that purified mind will direct you from within. Now what is happening? The mind is directing you without. It is dragging you towards so many things of this world. As soon as you get up from the bed, you run. You don't have time even to sip the coffee. So, but the same mind, when it becomes purified, it helps you like the best friend. So, what is needed is somehow you must cultivate intense love for God, and that will make the mind remain always tranquil and pure. So, by undertaking disciplined ways, you would like to devote yourself to contemplation and meditation always. When the mind is impure, it runs after gross things. When it gets purified by spiritual practice, it becomes pure and settled. And now, the same mind, instead of running towards the world, it runs towards God. Same running is there, but it has changed its course. It runs after God, that is pure consciousness. In Sunday service I was explaining, consciousness is Brahman. Prajnanam Brahma. Now, we are all analyzing the things, If you analyze it, then it makes easy. Even if it is difficult, you don't mind it, because you know it is like that. If you know it is like that, you don't feel the punch of the difficulty. The world where we are living, it is full of tremendous, devastating attractions. Attractions only to deceive you more and more. No end. Otherwise you may think, oh, let me have it and afterwards let me come back. Let me see how, let me see how long. No, nobody can say. The more you go, the more it is there, like a mirage. The worldly attractions are like that. Don't get deceived by them. If you say, no, I will have temporarily, I will have some enjoyment. Good. Who will fix that? To lead us from unreal to the real. To lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. To lead us from death to immortality. This is the famous Upanishadic prayer. We are suffering because we are holding unreal to be real. We are suffering because we are walking through darkness of ignorance. We are suffering because we are constantly afraid of death. Fear of death. Fear of the unknown. What happens after my death? Where will I go? All sorts of speculations and imaginations. So, it is very significant that this prayer has a very important message for us. The more you are concentrating all your energy towards the world, you cannot avoid suffering. You cannot get the real joy in this way. That means joy is somewhere, but we are pursuing in a wrong way. So we are suffering. So doing and undoing both are in our hands. You are suffering because of your own foolhardiness, your own ignorance, your own egotism. You alone are responsible for whatever that happens. So, world is there. You must know how to behave yourself in this world. You are expected to know how to behave. You are expected to undergo training You have to set your mind on a proper format. If you really aspire for real happiness. The concept of real happiness comes only when a person has passed through a lot of sufferings in this world. A man who has stepped into the life only knows the burden of life. Not the teenager, not an adolescent guy. He thinks he can do anything. No. You can do anything provided you are following discipline. If you have no discipline, you can't do anything worthwhile. You will be more destructive than constructive if you are not following discipline in your life. So we must set the ideal before us. We must take proper guidance from competent teachers, and we must step into real practice. Then you will see the joy, the beauty of life. This very world which was causing all sorts of sufferings gives you immense joy, immense happiness. Not only that, you will be happy to share your joy with others. Sri Ramakrishna was telling one devotee by name Krishna that a person leading a householder's life must have unflagging devotion to truth. God can be realized through truth alone. God can be realized through truth alone. It's very simple but very difficult to practice. Because we are not practicing the value of truthfulness, we can't have the real joy in life. We can't have the realization of God. Simply telling I want to realize God is not enough. That's not enough. You have to prepare yourself properly. Then, whatever you have set as your goal, you will be accomplishing it. But the point is, how many wish to take refuge in truth and in the Lord? Everybody thinks that whatever he is seeing in this world is truth. He thinks that he is infallible. All this is because he is deluded by egoism. On account of that, he regards himself as a very important. So much so, he doesn't even want to believe in the existence of God. Where is that God? In order to live my life, I have to go and seek a job, earn money, then only I can live. What is the need of God? People talk in that strain. That means a person is never seriously considering how little he can understand with his intellect. Mahamaya is a Vedantic term, inscrutable power. Alone knows in how many ways the Maya has kept man deluded. So what is it that is real? You must have clear conception of what is reality, what is truth. That inspires you to step into practical life of spirituality. Sri Ramakrishna tells the divine name, the name of the Lord of the universe, is the only truth. Everything else is unreal. God is truth. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. It's an Upanishadic statement. Truth itself is God. That truth is to be attained. Let not your life pass by in vain. If you don't aspire for truth, you won't be happy in the real sense of the term. If you hold on to world, whatever you want you get from the world. True. But it's always mixed up with pain, unpleasantness, all sorts of things. So you will have to turn to religion to experience real joy. Religion. The definition of religion is the manifestation of divinity already in you. That potential divinity is in every one of you, whether man or woman, young or old. But that potential divinity has to be experienced, has to be unfolded. Unfolding of your potential divinity is the purpose of religion. Vedanta always points out to the core of religion. So, that's why they prescribe some disciplines to follow. Through religious practices, what happens? Mind becomes pure. All the impurities of the mind are taken out. When the mind becomes pure, then you will understand many truths. There is no limit to the truth. Now, the door to spiritual truth is opened through prayers and meditation. There are many saints, holy people, who had that experience of truth. After having realized that, they have declared, "Why are you groping in the dark? Why don't you believe that there is God everywhere, always seeing all our movements, our actions, everything is known to Him." Swami Brahmanandaji, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, said, "God is, religion is true." But he said, when these truths are declared, they are not preached merely to make people moral or to keep an orderly society. It is not for that reason that religion has come. God truly is, He is the reality, and He can be realized. He is true, there is no greater truth than He. If you realize the truth in this very life, you will become blessed. So, the real austerity is based upon the three principles. First, take refuge in the truth. Truth is a pillar to which you must always hold while performing any action. Without truth, no spirituality. Without spirituality, no real happiness. That's the thing. Second principle, you will have to conquer lust, which is very difficult, I know, but it's a must. All our energies are being dissipated because of the lustful tendencies. If you have to open up spiritual realm, if you have to unfold your spiritual potentialities, you will have to conquer lust. On the other hand, mind should not dwell upon those things anymore. When once you are able to fix the mind on good ideas, spiritual ideas, When you are able to constantly practice meditation and prayers, then you will see, you will develop special power which is called Ojas. That helps you to comprehend these subtle varieties of truth. Third principle, renounce all cravings. Mind is full of cravings. As long as the mind is occupied with these cravings, you can't have peace of mind at all. In this world of phenomena, there is nothing that remains unchanged for a second. Analyze further, you will see that back of the changeable phenomena is the immutable Brahman. First, gross objects, then subtle and subtler objects. Whatever you analyze in the outer world, you will fail to find any permanence in them. You become baffled with. So when you reach that point, you will have to turn within yourself. You want to probe the mystery of this, so you seriously turn inward. This self-withdrawal is the way to the knowledge of Brahman or the Supreme Reality. Everything is accomplished if you succeed in installing God in your heart. You must be conscious of that. God is living in my heart. That feeling is very important. If you cherish that feeling, if you keep on praying to God in your heart, it makes tremendous change in yourself. Moral perfection is achieved without any special efforts. Truthfulness, compassion, and other qualities spontaneously follow you. You don't have to struggle for them. So one should be constantly engaged in selfless work, study of scriptures, worship, japa, and meditation, to be able to comprehend the truth of Vedanta. Truthfulness and kindness must go together. Say what is kind, but not what is untrue. Say what is true, but not what is unkind. That's very important. Truth alone triumphs, not falsehood. The path by which the sages have reached perfection is the path of truth. I have already told you the Upanishads contain all these spiritual ideas. one should make a thorough study of the Upanishads. They are a concise statement of all the great truths of the universe. Every line is the expression of a mind that has realized. Those who gave them out had realized the truth. And he who has realized God is the same as God himself. When Sri Ramakrishna constantly prayed and meditated upon Divine Mother Kali, for 12 years he practiced intense spiritual disciplines. Finally he got the vision of the Divine Mother. From that time onwards, he always would feel that Divine Mother only lives in him. Many times he would point out to the devotees, who is inside here? It is Divine Mother Kali herself. So he was in perpetual joy. That is the sign of realization. No trace of unhappiness or unpleasantness. Always cheerful, all the time. And not only that, he was hankering after to share this joy with people. Where are they? He was ready to distribute all his spiritual wealth to the persons who really want them. So these great seers were the embodiment of purity, so they were able to perceive all truth. So what you have to understand is that the more you go into the world and worldly things, sooner or later you will have to realize its hollowness. In Upanishad there is a story of Nachiketas in Kathopanishad. He got the message of Vedanta from the god of death himself. He was tempted by so many ways: wealth, kingdoms, enjoyments, power. God was ready to give anything he wanted. But he knew the utter hollowness in all these things. They were nothing to him. So he wanted nothing but truth, and truth was bound to come to him. So you must have the firm conviction about the hollowness of the material world and seek God with undivided devotion. Then he will surely come to you. Your hunger will be satisfied only when you perceive truth. Truth is that food eating which you will never hunger again. Truth is that drinking of which you will never thirst again. truth dwells in the heart of everyone. It is the nearest thing to each one of us. But then the mind has been dragged out so long by the things of this world that now it is difficult for it to come home. That means everything is resting upon the mind. Where is your mind going on? In which direction is going on? That's important. We chant every evening, Om Ratancha Satyancha, in course of our prayers, in our Indian tradition. It means it is the eternal truth from which the universe evolves, and it is the truth in which it exists and into which it dissolves. Once a devotee came to one Swami. His name was Swami Vijnanananda, another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. This devotee asked the Swami a question. Sir, we have heard many things from you and about the significance of practicing truthfulness, but there is some practical difficulty. The devotee is telling. What is that? He is telling him, see, I am working under a businessman, and it is impossible to work there without telling lies. Will these little falsehoods stand in the way of my realizing God? He is putting direct question like this to the Swami. Whether there is any concession or any compromise could be made. Swamiji replied straightly, deviations from truth will surely hamper realization of God. God is truth, and to realize Him you have to be completely truthful. You have to be wholly truthful in thought, word and deed. Otherwise, you can't have the realization of the Supreme Truth. That's why we see ordinarily people not finding any positive result in religion. It's not the fault of the religion. The fault lies in our doing practice. We have to correct ourselves properly and then engage. Follow the instructions and follow them properly, then you will realize the truth. So, the more you are going into the world, more you are depending on the material things of the world, the more you are going away from the truth. That means you will be always in some kind of restlessness, worries, and all those things. So, in order to enjoy that real peace, you will have to hold on to truth. At least you must know where you are and you must take some steps to practice the discipline with all determination. Then only truth is revealed. That's the significance of the prayer. Darkness of ignorance is destroyed by the light of knowledge. So we must aspire for that knowledge, which makes us happy, which gives us freedom. Let us hope to achieve that in our life. So this is the important teaching Sri Ramakrishna has given to us. He has told many points. I have taken only one for comments. Tremendous current of work. Meditation and prayer are very important to control the field of activity. In other words, to do the work properly, Ramakrishna, a devotee, said to the master, "Sir, I am thinking now of giving up my work. One who is involved in activity cannot accomplish anything. Work has become intolerable." How many people do really feel this way? If this feeling comes, that shows there is a slight awakening. Many people don't even feel that way. They think they are well in position. Ramakrishna was coming to Sri Ramakrishna frequently. He would hear Sri Ramakrishna's teachings. This holy company has given a kind of awakening to him. He feels drawn towards spirituality. Unless you consciously turn towards spiritual ways, it is not possible to be freed from the bondage. It is not possible to overcome fear, grief, and suffering. When Ramakrishna said like this to the master, Sri Ramakrishna replied, it was a very significant reply. He said, "Yes, work is very troublesome. But then Sri Ramakrishna suggests him a solution. What's the way? People do have to work as long as they live in this world. But you have to take proper measures to see that work is not obstructing your spiritual path. On the other hand, work will help you towards liberation. But if you don't take proper steps, you will just be dropped down in the ocean of work. So Sri Ramakrishna is giving the solution. Follow this and then do work. Then work will not obstruct you anymore. Even while you are in work, you will be in great joy. But then you have to be very determined to follow what Sri Ramakrishna has said in this regard. He is telling him, through him to all of us, it is good for you to meditate on God for a few days in solitude. Meditation has got an important play. It's a must, it must be done. No doubt you say that you would like to give up your work. Ramakrishna was telling, he wants to resign from work. Sri Ramakrishna referring to that, saying, there was another devotee, captain, he said the same thing. Worldly people talk that way, but they don't succeed in carrying out their intention. They talk, but do in a different way. Just like Pandits talking words of wisdom, but like vultures, their mind is set on the enjoyment of the world. So, the solution is here. That is, you should practice meditation and japa regularly along with work. Then there will be no trouble. You have to work, but you have to be free from troubles. The way is, devote some time, however difficult it might be, to prayers and meditation. If you don't practice meditation, japa, etc., along with work, then you will not be able to work in the right spirit. It makes the mind impure. By doing the work, if the mind is becoming impure, then it is not good work, but an evil one. From spiritual point of view, that is not helpful. Unless work is accomplished by meditation, japa and other spiritual practices, its very spirit is lost. Without blending your work with spirituality, egotism and pride come. Thereby the heart becomes defiled. You must always remember, as I said, constantly try to remember the ideal, the object of one's life is not work. It is not for simply doing the work you have come to this world. No. If you think that way, then you can't be free from sufferings. You can't get peace anymore. Work will not give you peace. It is somewhere else. It is the realization of God. That is the object of one's life. If the work makes you forget God, then it is highly degenerate. Swami Brahmanandaji, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, said, Japam, japam, japam must be practiced even while you work. Keep the name of the Lord spinning in the midst of all your activities. That's the way. If you don't practice japam and meditation, but simply engage yourself solely in work, egoism is bound to arise in you. Not only that, you will become the source of quarrels and disharmony. One thing you must know, is there any work that is wholly free from hindrance? You will be beset with fear, dislike, etc. many times. And again they will all clear away. They come and they go. That's the nature of work. And the abstraction becomes as the work is great. But there is some purpose in the work. What is that? The power of the soul is awakened as a result of that clash. Work means friction. You will be rubbed against many things. So that might give you an awakening. From that point of view, work is, in a way, good. So you must be constantly thinking of God. Tulsidas says, let the hands work, but let the lips utter His name. Be strong in the strength of God and engage yourself in work as an instrument in the hands. That will bring peace and joy. Nimitta matram bhavasavyasachin, Lord Krishna said to Arjuna. Don't be afraid of fighting. Don't be afraid of facing the situation. The fear comes because you feel that you are the doer. You can get rid of that fear if you think that you are just an instrument in the divine power. That makes a lot of difference. The work binds well. If it binds, it also unbinds. So, selflessly done, it leads to freedom, salvation. But work is drudgery if there is no spiritual feeling behind it. Sri Ramakrishna would say, to work with the hands, but to keep the mind ever on Him. So that you will learn when you come in close association with holy people. Arjuna was able to carry on his duties thoroughly because of his constant association with Lord Krishna. He was always meditating upon Krishna. Though outwardly he was engaging in all kinds of activities. But because Krishna was on his side, there was no room for the mind to go astray. There is no possibility of any deviation. So Sri Krishna was inspiring him all the time, and he was a fit recipient of that merit, and he could discharge the work in a right way. So he enjoyed the benefit of doing work, keeping his mind on God. So, it is very important for us to tune our mind to spiritual ideas. Whenever you are convinced that certain things are not to be given attention to, immediately take steps to get over them. Be conscious of yourself all the time. Be conscious of your mind, how it is going all the time. Always remember God. Then you feel joy in work. It will never bother you. But ordinarily we see people getting totally involved in work, not able to think of God at all, anytime, thereby losing all interest in spiritual development. Because the whole body, the whole mind has been used up by work. So how can you expect peace and joy? So Sri Ramakrishna is telling pointedly, you will have to take some vacation. Instead of going to sightseeing to Arizona and at other places, go to places of sacredness and sanctity. Devote yourself wholeheartedly in contemplation and prayers. Do wholeheartedly. Then you will see the wonderful benefit of that. Towards perfection. Let us pray to Him. To discriminate rightly what is unreal, what is real. Let us pray to Him to give us sufficient strength to reject what is considered unreal. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Ramakrishna, one of the devotees. See, people know many things about the spiritual way, and they keep on discussing the things. That is, the people who speak words of wisdom, but they don't live up to them. They talk, but not act upon. So, he calls those Pandits as mere people without any substance in them. They are like vultures which soar very high but keep their gaze fixed on the charnel pit. These Pandits, though they speak about spiritual matters and all such things, they are attached to the world. Attached to the world means they are under the grip of lust and gold. So, whatever they talk, it is simply talk only, bears no result. So Sri Ramakrishna points out how it is very important to practice discrimination and dispassion. It is very essential to practice them. Without discrimination and dispassion, what's the use of simply having the knowledge of the books? There must be some transformation in your life. You must keep on walking forward in your path. You must feel more and more joyful in your pursuit. So spirituality appears very difficult because we don't give attention to the things which we have to do. That is, we are not giving as much importance as is required for spiritual practice. So it's only through right way of discrimination you will be able to know the folly of worldly attachments, the joy and fullness of spiritual life. That means you must have your power of discrimination wide awake. The discrimination between the real and the unreal gives rise to detachment, which is very essential in spiritual life. So, once you are well rooted in your spiritual qualities,